man, but we're already here. We drove an hour here. He paid for the ticket. I can't leave right now. I gotta be a man.
This is where you're gonna see people cry and run and I live for these moments.
Is it suffering from the theming being too good?
Sensory overload for me. Like for me, it's if I was gonna leave any of the mazes halfway through, it would.
Wow! Welcome to the Zybcast, episode 1. I'm your host, TJ Ferralis, and today we have a very special topic, Knott's Scary Farm. That's right, in the spirit of a Halloween, we're going to be talking about Knott's Scary Farm. We're going to be breaking down the mazes. We're going to be breaking down the scare zones. We're going to be breaking down even the shows. That's right, we have all the information for you, whether you're a new-time buyer or an old-time returner. This is the episode for you. So, but before I get into all of that, of course, I have a very special guest. And let me just give you a little introduction right here. He's actually a global trade specialist at the Department of Homeland Security, Army National Guard officer, and most known for being my kindergarten childhood friend. That was a joke. In any case, calling all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, the East Coast, fellow Halloween fanatic, Rithik, welcome to the show.
Hey TJ, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you for being here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump into this stuff. But first, I want to talk about Halloween in general because I know, those of you who have known me for a long time, as you have, know that I'm a bit of a fraidy cat, and this whole Halloween thing is fairly new. I wasn't always into Halloween. In fact, I didn't really start getting into Halloween until 2016. And you, Rithik, actually happen to be the reason why. And I thought that your story of how you got into this whole Halloween season was really unique, let's say. If you want to go ahead and expand on that.
Sure, yeah. So
What's
I
up with this
love
Halloween?
I think anyone that knows me, that's one of my defining characteristics is that I love Halloween, holidays in general, but I look forward to Halloween all year. I start celebrating in early September and I keep celebrating until the first week of November. So I try to stretch it out as much as possible. The reason I love Halloween is I think it's the best holiday for a lot of reasons. One of those is that there's so much to it. There's so much lore, right? So there's other holidays like Thanksgiving and New Year's and say St. Patrick's Day. There's really one story to them. Christmas has a little bit of depth, but nothing can match Halloween. They have witches, they have goblins, werewolves, vampires, they have, new movies coming out. They have just so much things for people to get into. Zombies is a new thing that people are getting into with Halloween. And there's just so much there. It's such a deep holiday. There's really something for everyone, for little kids. You got, things like the Charlie Brown stuff. You have things for people that are in middle school and high school. You have things for couples. You have things for older people. If nothing else, older people, participate by giving out candy. It's really a great holiday that gets everyone involved. It's not tied to any religion in particular, so there's not some people that feel left out or don't celebrate it as much as others, or it's not a touchy subject. For the most part, there is no day off, so it's really just for the sake of it. No one has to do Halloween, and the fact that we all choose to every year for about a month, I think is pretty awesome, just about just people in general. And let's see what else. And it's not really tied to family in any way, so people aren't flying home for Halloween, unlike Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, which, like, I love those holidays. I think they're great. However, you're usually going home or doing something specific on the day of, so you're kind of separated from a lot of people that you would otherwise spend time with. Halloween is a holiday for the friends, and I think that's awesome. And
Yeah,
so all
well
that
said.
together, oh yeah, then there's so many other things I could mention, like decorating houses and pranks and TV shows and movies, video games, what have you. So how did I specifically get into Halloween? So
Yes.
I was always into Halloween. It was always my favorite holiday of the bunch. Um However, it was really 2015 is when I got into it. So in 2014, I graduated college and I commissioned into the Army Guard through Army RTC. And there was this course that I had been preparing to go to pretty much my whole life. I had really set myself up for that for the last, however long I'd been an adult, getting ready for this course. I went to the course and I wasn't successful at it. I came home. I had taken a leave of absence from grad school to go to the course, and I came back at a weird time in September, so I couldn't start school until January. I had a stress fracture, so I couldn't go back to the course and get requalified until later in 2016. So I was just pretty much at home, and I wasn't in Boston, so I was away from most of my friends. I was just with my family, and I didn't have a whole lot to do. So that was around September, and after about a month of sulking around, I just kind of chose that I was going to really get into Halloween because, I had a lot of friends around California, but at the same time, people were working, people were in school, they couldn't hang out with me all day. And so one day I just got a pumpkin and I carved it and I posted it on Facebook, and I think it was a big deal for everyone because it's just really something out of my character to.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanna just kind of paint a picture here for everyone listening. If you've known, I've known Rithik for a really long time. Okay, and you know, first of all, it's kind of out of character for him to take any photo if it's not absolutely necessary to life. The types of photos that he takes will be of Word documents, certifications, or things that need to be sent via email, right? And so, first of all, taking a photo for the sake of taking a photo, posting a photo for the sake of posting a photo, which is like that fact squared, and that is that of something that is festive. He carved a pumpkin. I was a little bit worried. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, he's really going through something right now.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was. I think that pumpkin carving was therapeutic for me. It was something like I just kind of forced myself to be by myself and learn a skill. And I'm not an artsy person, and I just
I
did it.
know, and it looked pretty good. It
Yeah,
was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good.
I'll put a picture to it if you
Yeah,
guys can see it.
I was pretty impressed. It's really simple, but for me that was actually something. And I think about carving that pumpkin. That was really kind of the day that I decided to be into Halloween. I decided to be, like more positive, really down on myself for not successfully passing that course. And I was just kind of it forced me to just live in the moment. Like right now, I have plans for next year, but right now I am carving a pumpkin. That's what I'm doing. And that I decided to just extend that to all of October. And that's really why I love Halloween so much. It's this, I'm in the Army Guard. I work for Department of Homeland Security. I used to have to balance school with the military. I just had a lot of things going on that I think are important and need to be done. And Halloween is the time of year, is this extra thing that I just choose to go completely into. So that year, I went to Knott Scary Farm. It wasn't the first year I'd gone there, but it was definitely the first year as an adult, and it was the first year that I had gone and really appreciated it and really knew my way around the park. And I had an excellent time. I fell in love with it. Man, I don't even remember who I went with. Oh, you know what? I went with a neighbor of mine. His name is Nathan. He's since moved away. Nathan, shout out to you if you're there. I hope you're doing well in Washington. And we had an awesome time there. And the next day we went to Universal Studios Hollywood, and we had an awesome there too. And we had an awesome day there too. And I think after that, I have to do this every single year. And it wasn't just mazes for me. I do, Halloween history walking tours. I go to Halloween themed zoos, anything that's Halloween related. I go all out. I try to make sure that I do something with each one of my friends that's Halloween related. I try to get everyone to a theme park, but not everyone will bite. It took you a couple years that we'll get into.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it did. Actually, the reason why you probably went with Nathan is because I kind of chickened out there.
That's right. Yeah,
Um,
I sent you a text. I said, "Hey, do you want to go?" We had been talking earlier, and just no response. I was
okay,
like,
wait,
"Oh,
okay. Wait, hold on. All right,
all right, all right, all
let
right."
me explain. Okay, this whole Halloween thing is fairly new to me. Okay, Halloween was never my favorite holiday. Okay, I just recently have started to compare Halloween with Christmas. This is a very recent thing, okay? 2015. Definitely not ready. I'm that guy when I go into a horror movie and I know when something bad's when you know when something bad's gonna happen, the music comes up. I'm the one who covers my ears because I do not like getting yelled or screamed in the ear. I do not like getting startled. That's not my thing.
You used
Um,
to not be, for sure.
Correct. Correct. Now it is my thing, but before I was like, no, why do people do this? It's not fun. This is not
Yeah, it
fun.
took a lot of finagling. So so 2015 I gave up. I just went to the two parks with my friend Nathan, and then 2016 I decided that I was gonna make another attempt. And at that point we were sort of really into like analyzing things and not being about having a great experience, like a fun experience, but having a unique experience.
That's
So
right.
I sold it to you as, hey, you might hate this, and one, we're gonna go to Universal because they don't have as intense scare zones. So if you hate it, we can kind of be away from Halloween outside of the mazes. And if you do hate it, we'll have an interesting story, and we'll try to dig into why you don't like it. And when we first went there, when we went through that first scare zone with the people with the chainsaws,
Mm-hmm.
you were pretty terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to this first maze at the Terror Tram, which interestingly, we'll get into this in the next podcast, is that this is the first year Universal isn't doing the Terror Tram, but it was unique because it was very wide open and it was sort of an easy introduction to what mazes were like. And I think after that, correct me if I'm wrong, like you were pretty on board.
No, yeah, that's pretty much how it went down. The walking through the gates, seeing that I believe that year was it the one then when they were doing the what was that movie with the
It
Purge,
was
right? Was that the Purge? Or was
that
that
sounds right. That sounds right.
I think it was the Purge theme and they had the chainsaws and I thought how much of a girly girl would I be or fraidy cat would I be if I turn around right now? Because you gave me the option. You said I pay for your ticket. You can do whatever you want. Leave
Right.
whenever you want. You left it up to me, and I thought, man, but we're already here. We drove an hour here. He paid for the ticket. I can't leave right now. I gotta be a man. They can't hurt me, right? And I just kept telling myself, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. I barely made it through that scare zone. Got to the Terror Tram, which is a great introduction to anyone, which we'll probably get into next time, but they didn't have it. But it's, yeah, like wide open area, lots of breaks in between. Kind of got me acclimated. And what I realized is I just got to stop taking myself so seriously. I felt like one of the things that was preventing me from having fun was I was taking myself too seriously. I was saying, "Oh, I what I'm not a tough guy." You know what I mean? I'm not going to be a tough guy if I get scared. I can't scream like a girl. That's not cool. I mean, you don't go there to be cool. You're going there to have a good time. And I think what really sold me was when I got scared and turned to you and your reaction was priceless. I haven't seen you laugh. I haven't seen you have that much of a good time since then. And I thought, okay, you know, this isn't so serious. I should just let loose, let things come. And I think that's kind of the rest is history. Here I am,
Yeah, since then
2019.
Since
Yeah.
then, I think the next year we went to, so that year we just went to Universal. The next year we went to Knott's and Six Flags. The year after that, I think we went Knott's and Universal. And then this year we did all three.
Mm-hmm. That is right. But I'm definitely glad that you somehow dragged me out. I don't know if I'd be able to do it myself, but uh, there you have it. That's kind of our background here. So you're gonna have a lot of information today. We're gonna go through everything you need to know about this park, not Scary Farm. So we're gonna go over the prices. You know what you get for what you pay for. Now it's gonna be a little bit weird, right, Rithik? Because the
Yeah, it
prices do
does. It
vary.
does. Yeah. So it it changes based on what day it is and when, and where it is in the season. So when we give you the prices, we went and collect the prices for October 4th. So that gives you a general idea. So when you're comparing the parks, listening to the other podcasts that we put out, you'll be able to have kind of a apples to apples comparison. So just to go over, for newbies that may not have been to Knott's Berry Farm, to let them know that it's a Southern California park in Buena Park, California. It's one of the smaller ones, but it has it has a really loyal following. So it kind of lives in the shadow of Disneyland most times during the year. They have a lot of great events. I think me and you can agree that it's our favorite park, but it's smaller, it's more compact, it's a more intimate setting. It seems like that they do a lot of things for their fans, and a lot of their attendance is people that are locals. But when it comes to Halloween, these guys are it. They started the trend of Halloween theme parks. There's documentaries about these guys. Sliders, that act of sliding and that type of scare was invented at the park. The actors that are here, some of them have been playing their character for over 10 years. So
Yeah,
Not
crazy.
Scary Farm is for Halloween. If it's not the best, it's number two. I think sometimes I see Knott's being ranked number one nationwide, or Universal Studios in Florida being ranked number one. But it is a premier event, and it's definitely known for Halloween fanatics. So on October 4th, the regular ticket was $50. So on October 4th, the regular ticket's $50. So what you get for that is that you can enter the park at 7 p.m. for the Not Scary Farm event, and it either closes at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. depending on the day. I think Friday, Saturday it's a 2 a.m. thing. Thursday and Sundays it's 1 a.m. But you can check the website for that. Every ride is open. They have 9 mazes. They have 4 scare zones, 4 shows for you to check out, and that gives you access to all of them for $50. You don't get access to the daytime events. So if you want to go to Knott's Berry Farm during the daytime, enjoy maybe the Knott Spooky Farm event that's just for the kids. That's a separate ticket. But for $50, you get access to the Knott Scary Farm event at night. Now, for $140 on October 4th, you would get the Fast Pass. So what the Fast Pass gives you is front of the line entrance to each maze. And I would say at Not Scary Farm, the average wait time, depending on the day, it's about 60 minutes per maze.
Seems about right.
Sometimes there are a lot more. That Special Ops Infected maze sometimes goes all the way up to 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But I've seen some, wait times around the 20 minutes, depending on it, if you time it right. But in general, you're saving about 60 minutes per line that you wait in. And that's going to allow you to really go to every single maze that day.
Yeah, there's 9 mazes.
Not,
right.
You know what That's a lot to get through. There's definitely, if you go with the regular ticket, you'll have a great time. I've done it before, but you're not going to be able to see everything. So if you want to see everything in one night, which is not what most people's experience is, you got to get that Fast Pass. Or they actually also have a season pass for Not Scary Farm, so you can come back multiple days. But I think that there's a limited number. And with the Not Scary Farm Fast Pass, you also get unlimited front of the line access to the rides, which is really awesome. That's pretty unique, something that only Knott's does. And I love that benefit. I don't always use it, but I have in the past. And it's great to be able to blow through the mazes, see the shows, and then get in some rides. Especially if you're someone that isn't like me and you don't go to Knott's Berry Farm all the time, you can experience most of what Knott's Berry Farm has to offer during Not Scary Farm, and I think that's a lot of fun. So it's hard to say that you should buy the Fast Pass, but that's the only way that I experience the park anymore. I bought the regular pass. I did 2 or 3 rides, or 2 or 3 mazes. I think the second year I went with my friend Holly, we had a great time. She wasn't really super into the Halloween thing anyway. We were just going to have a fun time there. We walked around the park, walked around the scare zones, had a great night, but we only went to a few mazes. And we didn't really think anything of it. We thought we had a great time. We did have a great time. And then the next year, or actually later that year, I went with the Fast Pass, and I got to see everything. And it was such a great experience that's what I end up doing every single year now.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Once you go Fast Pass, it's very hard to go back. In fact, we do the whatever every park has a different name for it, but front of the line passes, we do it on every single park because
Right.
it's just for us, it's worth it because the time is more important than that, whatever the savings may be, especially for you who flies out all the way from the East Coast and you're only
Right.
here for a weekend, and when you're at the park, you're there at the park. You're there to get everything. You're not messing around. You got a
No, I'm
mission.
not.
You got a mission to fulfill. You got things to see. You are the Halloween guy. You're not gonna get
Right.
the fast pass, but hey, some of you, you're not the Halloween guy. We get it. But if you're the type of person who, is not sure, what you want to get done, like what you want to do, we are gonna rank the mazes in terms of what we feel is like the best mazes, but Knott's is such a strong park. I feel you're really doing yourself a disservice. If you got the extra cash, just do the fast pass. That's my opinion. I would say that's fair, right? I mean, you got to do the fast pass. You don't want to be waiting in line.
Oh, that's really what I think. Like, if you're gonna sell the event, I think what people hate the most about theme parks is
It's the
the waiting in
lines.
line. It's the lines, right? That's why most people have given up on theme parks because there's the lines. I
Yeah,
really think for $140, you're getting three times the mazes, right? So
yeah.
if you know that you're into it, it definitely is worth the money. Now, if you're unsure, you want to go with the regular pass 1 year, test the waters. If you love it, come back the next year or later that season, do the fast pass. But I recommend the fast pass for anyone that has the cash, and not everyone has the cash to spend on that this
And
type of
you know what?
event.
Thank God that not everyone has the cash, because that allows people like us to get the fast pass and go
Exactly.
through
I
everything.
don't understand on some of these parks, not Knott's in particular, but some of these parks, I don't understand how you could get the regular pass at, like Universal, for example. There's
Oh
three
yeah.
hour lines. There's 3 hour. I wouldn't go to the event
Well,
with a
the
regular pass.
fast pass this year was what, $200. So,
Yeah, it's $200, but it's the only
and it
way to
was worth
go.
it. It was worth it. You got to do it. You have
Yeah,
to. You have to. You're not gonna wait in line for 3 hours. That's your
right.
whole night. You know what I mean? Let's say, okay, let's give an example here, and we'll go on to the mazes. Um, let's say that you're there and you're not into Halloween, and it's like, you know what? I just want to see what this is about. I listen to the Zybcast because the Zybcast is the most popular podcast in the world, and he said to go to these let's say 3 mazes. I just want to do those 3 mazes. I want to get the heck out of here. Right? Get the fast pass. Do the 3 mazes. You'll be out in 2 hours, and you can have the rest of your night to yourself. Like that $90 paid for itself in time. You get it all back. I feel like it's not worth. It has less to do with the price of 140. It has more to do with $50 is a ripoff for you waiting in lines for most of the night. And let's be real, you're going to be waiting in line for an hour. You're going to be on your phone. And guess what? Everyone's on their phone. You might have 4 bars, but everyone's on your phone. You're not going to be able to open up that Tinder app, guys. You won't be able to open up Facebook, Reddit. Nothing's going to work. Not even phone calls, not even texts are going to work out there. Right? You're gonna be waiting in line. You're gonna have nothing to do. You're gonna tire out all the possible conversations you can have. Now, if you're on a date, maybe that's what you want to do. But that's another point. I feel like $140, that is a steal, and I can't believe that people are to this day are not doing. Maybe they just don't know better. But anyway, a little spiel there. Let's go ahead and let's go on to the mazes. Yeah. So this year, Knott's had two. It was 2 new mazes, right? They had Waxworks and
Origins.
Origins, right? Okay, so let's before we go into the maze, let's preface it real quick that the maze experience is gonna vary between person to person. A lot of times because of luck, and what we mean by that is whether you're in the front of the line, middle of the line, or back of the line, and you don't really have control over that, right? And those of you who have not gone before, really quickly, it's when you're going through the maze and a scare happens and an actor is scaring a group. Sometimes he doesn't have time to reset before the next group comes in. And what that means is when you're walking through the maze, the first group in front of you might have gotten scared, but as he's resetting, you walk right past the room and he's not able to scare you. So just an unfortunate fact of life, um, that you're not gonna be able to, like, not two. There's no two experiences that would be the same. But we're gonna try and break down the maze in terms of a brand new customer, and we're gonna take all this into consideration. We're gonna rank each maze 1 through 5, 5 being the best, 1 being poop. And yeah, if you're a brand new customer, some of these we've been to before, but we're gonna try and give it as fair of an analysis as possible. Sound fair, Rithik?
Let's do it.
You ready to do this? Let's do this. Okay. Let's start off with a new maze this year. It was actually Waxworks.
Right.
And
So
mhm.
Waxworks took over the part of the park that Trick or Treat was in. Trick or Treat was, I think, the longest running maze. They had a finale last year. They brought it out they made it a blacklight maze with flashlights, and it was really awesome. And I'm really happy to see it go out, as it did. But I'm also happy to see a new maze in that place. So Waxworks, the story of Waxworks is that there's an insane candle maker, wax sculpture person, and he has been doing experiments on people and turning them into these wax sculptures. And as you're walking through the maze, you can see the progression of that, and you start to see some really gruesome things by the end of the maze. I really enjoyed this maze. I didn't get a whole lot of scares, but I love the atmosphere of it. I like the story that it was trying to tell. The sets and the props were really awesome. You could really like kind of peek around the corner to see if they added those fine details for those few people that were going to do that, and they absolutely did in each of those instances. You can look into the cauldrons and see that something that looks like wax. I imagine it's just water, but something that looks like wax is pooling there. And I really, really enjoyed this maze. It wasn't perfect because, again, I didn't really get those startles or those pop out moments that I really like in mazes. But overall, I was really, really happy with it. And it was a great debut. And looking forward to seeing it next year as well, or the year after that.
Yeah, well said. I think that for its first year, because a lot of times when new mazes are introduced, there's a lot of technical issues or logistical issues that happen. Like they just didn't really plan out the maze, and that's one thing that I like about Knott's is just this attention to detail. For its debut, it just did such a good job. Like you said, maybe we didn't get too many scares, but just like as a visual art, like just as a work of art, it was incredible. The lighting was great, the story was great, and they kept playing this track over and over again. It's like, you're not gonna get out alive or something like that, and implying that you're gonna get turned into wax. So the back of your head, you're thinking, okay, like some of these wax figures are like from the people who are in front of us. Like we're not gonna get out of here. Really cool idea, really creative. Love it. It was unique. So cool what they did with this maze. I'm glad that because I actually really like Trick or Treat. I'm glad something worthy took its place this year. So why don't we tell them what we rated it this year?
Honestly, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I had a great experience, definitely above average, but not perfect. So I'd give it a 4.
4 to 5 for me as well. Really
Okay.
solid. Not perfect, but definitely looking forward to it next year. Okay, let's move on to the depths, and then we'll take a quick break. So the depths is actually its second year returning maze.
Right. So it's in its second year. So the overall story is that you're going down a coal mine and you go lower and lower. And I think that they've broken into some other dark dimension or unleashed something. And it's these water aquatic monsters that are running around, and I think they're mutating the miners into some sort of creatures. I love this maze. It's super creepy. The set dressing is awesome, and there's a lot of great visual effects. I think at one point there's this fog that's just like chest level, and they have this laser light that's chest level. So it's basically covering the fog underneath you, and they have actors popping up, sort of like it's almost like you're in the ocean, and there's
Mm-hmm.
and there's shark-like creatures popping up. There's a lot of great visual effects. It's really surprising. I got amazing scares this year and last year, and I think it's a solid maze. I'll just say right now it's a 5 out of 5 maze for me. I really loved it.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 for me as well. Another one of those technical masterpieces. You walk into this maze and you just wonder how much money does it cost to create something like this? And first of all, who comes up with this stuff? Like the idea to have a layer of fog underneath and this kind of like light that skims the top to give this illusion of the like how did you you probably could have like cured pneumonia or something.
Right.
But that was your
This
passion.
is this
So
is their thing. This is what they're into. And people, the creators at Knott's, man, yeah, they are so masters of their craft. They can really like, put themselves into the shoes of the first time maze goer and really like make the set in a way that, you know, they'll allow you to like kind of drift off in one direction, look at a set, and then they'll scare you because they know that you're going to be in this area. They have like a lot of trust and their understanding of where the audience is going to go, and they really focus more on the creepiness than they do at the
mhm.
scares. They're not really loud. They don't have shaker cans. They just kind of pop up and they just allow you to scare yourself really.
Mhm.
And I really love how they allow the setting of the maze to really set the mood instead of bright lights and slamming doors and anything like that. This
Universal.
maze and other mazes at Knott's, I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, again, 5 out of 5 for me. Probably one of the best mazes at the park this year. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we're gonna continue on with the mazes, starting with Paranormal Inc. after the break. Okay, so before we get back into the mazes, actually, we have a very special message from our first sponsor of the podcast, and I'm really excited about this. So, Rithik, why don't you tell our lovely audience a little bit more about our sponsor?
So our first sponsor of the podcast is foodscraps.com. So that's foodscraps with a Z.com. So what they are, they're an innovative subscription box service. What they do is they take discarded foods from restaurants, gas station, hotels, all different types of food establishments. They package it up in a balanced nutrition package. They give you 1 week's of food at a time and they send it to you. From then, because of the expiration dates, you have about 1 week to get to eat that food. And let me tell you, it is fantastic. They can accommodate any type of dietary need that you have: gluten free, keto, vegetarian, vegan, what have you, whatever you need, they can get it to you. I've been using foodscraps.com for about 2 weeks now. They've been generous enough to give me a free sample. And let me
which
tell
is
you,
which is ridiculous because it's kind of my channel and my podcast, but they actually sent it to you, so I don't know how that works. But anyway, sorry about that. Just a little bit salty, food scraps. Why'd you do that?
well, I'm
Send some to me
sure
too.
if you can use our offer code, which is foodscraps.com/ZYB. If you go to foodscraps.com again with a Z/ZYB, TJ, and everyone else, you can get your first free 2 weeks at Food Scraps as well. Now, after that, it's $19.99 per month for one person, and I believe it is $39.99 for a family of four. So if you
Oh
uh, if
wow.
you if you can spread it out with your friends, if you all with your roommates, it's a great deal. I love foodscraps.com. It is for someone like me that I'm working, I have another job, I'm trying to spend time with friends, don't have a whole lot of time to cook. I just open up my box of food scraps. I don't really know what I'm going to get. It's kind of like adds a little bit of spontaneity to your day. So, a half-eaten steak, and then you open it up and it's a completely good salad. It's really a fun little food journey, and it helps the environment out, and it's at an affordable price. So they took a chance on us sponsoring this podcast. So please take a chance on them and go to foodscraps.com/ZYB.
Okay, we are back. Let's just jump into our next maze. So, Paranormal Inc. Man, I love this maze.
Oh man, this is one of my favorite mazes. So it's been around for a while actually, but they've
It
changed it
has.
up. They've changed it up last year. It was the same as last year. So for those that have gone last year, it's not too different from last year. Now, what the setup is, it's a kind of a spoof on those home haunt shows where they investigate paranormal activity, and they have, with the night vision goggles, and with the EFP readers and all that. And so they have this pre-show that they've over the years they've cut it down to make it more concise, that they're looking for some ghost, and she pops out and it opens up a portal to a different dimension. And that's really the setup for paranormal. Now, what I loved about Paranormal Inc. last year, and I still love it this year, but I knew what to expect, was that they changed the ending. And there's this part where you're going through that, this hell dimension thing where you're in sort of what seems like a cave with monsters coming out. You push past this black, sort of like a funhouse air balloon thing, so you can't really see where you're going. You just push past it, and then you're in a 1950s hospital with a creepy nurse.
And it's super bright too.
Super bright. There's 1950s music, playing in the background, and it's so disorienting. The first time I did this, I was beside myself, because I thought I knew what I was expecting when I got to this part of the maze. It was completely different. You walk through this. Well, you have to walk past this nurse, and what I love is that she doesn't scare you. She just makes you walk past.
No, she just stands there and stares at you with a smile. Yeah,
it's so unsettling. And then you go down this hallway, and they have this like two-way glass or one-way glass. But anyway, the lighting changes. The hallway's gone, and now you're back in the cave for a second. And then it blinks and you're back. And it reminds me of sort of like, something I've seen in video games when the main character is hallucinating or
has a weird flashback or something.
Yeah, it's so awesome to see that in real life. It was the first time I was absolutely immersed in this story, and I love this maze so much. I'm happy to see it come back. I hope that they change it up a little bit next year, because I was hoping that there would be a little, something new, but with it having just changed last year, maybe not. But I hope that they change it up to keep it fresh, and they've definitely shown that they can change a maze up to keep their fans guessing.
Yeah, do you think that they're actually going to have it again next year? Because it's been here for...
Yeah, it's one of the older ones, but they did announce which ones are leaving, and that is Shadowlands and Special Ops Infected. Those are the two mazes that are going to be switching out. So,
well, yeah, I mean...
the rest should be back.
Okay, well... Glad to hear. I mean, okay, this just shows with Knotts, in Knotts we trust. Okay, so Paranormal Inc, right? I feel like this maze, first of all, there's a pre-show. The pre-show of the maze is like Rithik said, it's kind of like, oh, this is this reality TV show. We're gonna go ghost hunting, and then something goes terribly wrong. They cut it short this year. I'm glad, because I'm not a big fan of pre-shows. If you can avoid a pre-show, I think it adds value. But I feel like, man, if there is a maze to repeat, I think this might be the maze.
Absolutely. And if you have a regular ticket, this is the maze to do. I think you definitely need to be doing this maze if you find yourself there.
There's actually a part where because in the pre-show, after you get through the pre-show, they actually rush. They're evacuating you out of there, and there's actually two areas where you get split off. So the group gets split into the left group and the right group, and now you're all trying to scurry out of this, the backstage, if you will, of this like haunted area. And there's like these twists and turns, and they kind of leave it open-ended. The maze isn't kind of like these hallways and corridors. It's not really linear. There's like different ways to traverse the maze, and sometimes you're running into other groups, and you get mixed and mashed. It's a really interesting experience, and they pull it off super well. If there is a theme other than like this reality TV show theme, it's disorienting. From the moment you start and get into the room, things go wrong, get evacuated, and you're getting lost in the crowd, like from the crowd from the left, like moving to the crowd from the right, and you're getting lost in this maze, trying to find your way out of there, and then finally, like Rithik said at the end, where you just get this weird flashback to another dimension. The whole thing is like a disorienting experience. and that just adds another level to terrifying, in my opinion. But definitely one of the best mazes that Knott's has to offer. I think we both agreed on this one. We both gave this maze a 5 out of 5, right?
Yeah, 5 out of 5 for sure.
Yeah, this maze is incredible. It's definitely something that you have to see for yourself. So let's go ahead and move on to Dark Entities, but first, take a quick mini break. I need to fix something, a little technical difficulties, if you know what I mean. Give me 1 second. Okay, we are back, and let's go ahead and just jump into the next maze, Dark Entities.
Dark Entity. So just to describe it quickly, it's sort of like a ripoff of Aliens. So you're on a spaceship, and these aliens have come aboard, and they're killing everyone. I really like this maze. The set dressing is a lot of fun. They have all these instrument panels with videos on them with what's going on in other parts of the maze that you can look at. The knobs and the little switches are really well made. Some of them work, and I got a lot of good scares for this one. Not the most unique maze. Sort of like I said, it sort of seems like they just took the idea of aliens and kind of changed it up a little bit so they weren't
Right.
using the license. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed the maze a lot. I think this year there's a lot of times when I was looking at, let's say, like an instrument panel or a video on a console, and then a scare actor would come out and scare me. I really enjoy that type of stuff where they work with the area that they have, and I think that they did a great job at Dark Entity. Also, this is its second year that it's been there, so it was new last year, so it's returning this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dark Entities. What else can I say about it? I mean, I just have to, like, first of all, how much does it cost to make this maze? Because you walk in and it's interesting because a lot of mazes, a lot of times that they build the atmosphere because it's dark inside. This maze isn't really dark. It's kind of, there's flickering lights here and there, but it's like really clever use because it's not really dark. It's lit pretty well. It's lit like the inside of a spaceship, and it's such clever use of fog and lasers and atmosphere and hiding things well. So like you'll walk through, an area of the spaceship, and there'll be like this dark panel, like this glass panel that has like some sort of like alien in captivity, but it's kind of, that part is not really well lit, so it kind of draws you into it. You're kind of wondering what is inside, and boom, right there is when it pops out at you. Or there are times where you'll be looking on that side, and then actually the other side, there's a scare actor hidden, and that's what gets you. Really cool gimmicks like that. They have like this really cool part where there's just live wires. I don't know why I always bring that up whenever you go in through. There's like live wires that are hanging down from the ceiling and makes like this static noise, and I don't know why I find that so terrifying, but that's pretty terrifying to me. I don't know. I, for some reason, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
man.
this is
OSHA violations, man.
yeah, for sure.
This
It's like,
is
like how do you know? How can you tell the real live wires from the fake ones?
right.
And there's like this really cute robot that kind of is like spazzing out when you first enter.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that robot is adorable.
yeah, so I really enjoyed this maze. Unfortunately, this year I didn't get too many. I think you got the brunt of most of the scares. I just was kind of triggering them for you.
Yep,
Um,
that's pretty much what happened. You were right for the most part this year, you were at the front of the pack. I was right behind you. So I kind of hung back a little bit so I could be a little bit closer to the middle. And usually you would walk by a scare, and then the scare actor would jump out right after.
yeah, but regardless, still a really fun maze. I think we kind of agree on this one, right? I flick a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. I would consider a 5, but no, I'd say 4 out of 5. I'm happy with a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, definitely solid. And I don't know, maybe they can switch it up a little bit next year, and maybe can jump up to a 5 out of 5. We'll see. Okay, moving right along here to Special Ops Infected. Really interesting take on a scare maze, if you will.
Yeah, so this one uses laser tag guns, and they have zombies with with the targets on their around their head, and when you shoot them, they act like they're getting shot, and your gun keeps track of how many people you've shot. The first time I've done this maze, it was amazing. However, the first time I did this maze, it was in a different part of the park. It was actually where Camp Snoopy is, and it was this big, wide open area. And you know what? I don't even. They had a completely different system where you had to show up there early, get a time to come back, and
Oh,
then
really?
yeah, they had a completely different system. I think it was 2015 was the last year they did it that way. Then they moved it down over to where it is at I
The
think it's the
Indian
west side.
area.
Yeah, the Native American area, the Indian area, where that area, and it's a lot more tight and compact, and it's still really great, but it's also been there for the longest. I think
Mm.
it is the longest maze. Enjoy it, but I am ready to see something new, honestly. To rate it, I would give it a 4 out of 5 just because it's been done better, but my experience is it's like a 2 out of 5 now to me. I want to see something new. It's the same thing over and over now. It's been maybe 4 years and they haven't changed it, and I'm just ready to see this thing go. And they have said that this is its last year, and I'm afraid to say it didn't go out with a bang for me. And I am looking forward to seeing something in its place next year.
I initially was going to give this a 5 out of 5. You may have talked me down, but let me verbalize my thoughts and we'll see if I stick with my 5 out of 5 rating. It is just one of these mazes that, like we prefaced earlier, luck has a lot to do with this maze. So you get a laser gun, and here's how the targeting system works. You're walking through the maze, you see green targets, whether it's on a person or an object. You shoot it, it blinks, makes a noise, and maybe after 2 seconds, you can shoot it again. If you shoot it while it's blinking, it doesn't count. So you're not having fun shooting a green target. You gotta wait till they're red. So the big issue lies where it's kind of the opposite of what is usually happening, where the front of the line gets most of the fun because they're shooting the targets that are popping out, and the ones who are in the middle, which are typically the where you want to be in the group, those are the ones who are not having too much fun because the targets haven't reset yet and you're kind of shooting the same targets. And then the ones in the back, they're the ones who kind of get the targets have reset, but by then the surprise is kind of over. I don't know. That is the biggest issue for me in this maze. But other than that, I think it's really neat that it's a lot different. It feels like you have a say, and you're all working together as a team, by the way, which is nice for a change.
Yeah,
Um,
I go to these Halloween things all over the country. I've been around DC, Massachusetts each year, and the Los Angeles area, and I've never seen anything like this. I'm kind of surprised people haven't ripped off this
yeah, that's
idea.
weird.
I've been to other theme parks in the Knott's Berry Farm family, and they don't have it either. So I'm pretty surprised that they don't. Maybe it's a throughput thing because it is logistically very taxing on the park, because
Hmm.
when they had it at Camp Snoopy, it was just taking up this big area. It's just they had people taking numbers and coming back, and that upset some people. And now it's like it could be, if you don't have that fast pass, and this is why that fast pass is totally worth it. It's like a 2.5 hour wait, and while I think it's a great experience, even if it's your first time experiencing it, man, with 2.5 hours, that's
Yeah,
pretty rough.
we had the fast passes, and even we had to wait around 20 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely one of their premier events. It's just very unique. I'll stick with my 5 out of 5. I still
Okay.
think it's just something that you can't get anywhere else, and it still holds true, unless, of course, you go to Japan and go to Universal Studios and do their Resident Evil thing. Which shout out to
Ooh.
Kevin for letting me know about that. That is really really cool. He was telling me about that. Universal Studios in Japan, they have this Resident Evil thing. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty neat. Okay, so the next newest maze in Not Scary Farm Curse of Calico.
So this is, yes, Origins Curse of Calico. So what this is, it's man, I have such mixed feelings about this because
Mm,
it's definitely up my alley.
it
Because what
is.
it is, it's Calico is a part of the park that's Ghost Town. That's the name of the town. And there's this huge history, this long history to Calico and it's not scary farm roots. And there's a witch called Sarah Marshall. She used to be in a lot more of the promotions and she'd be a lot more involved in the mazes. I know this because I have a history of not scary farm book.
You
And
would.
yes, I would. I would be the one. I would be the person to have that book. And this explains how Sarah Marshall was hung and came back to haunt the people of Calico. And it gives you the history of the scare zone that this maze is in. Now, for someone like me, I want to give it a 5 out of 5 because this is exactly what Knott's does for its fans. It knows its fans. It'll make something for fans. They'll be fine with something that only 10% or 5% or 1% of people can really enjoy if they're making it for the people that love it. And I was geeking out in this maze.
You
I
were.
was geeking out. However, I wasn't very scared in this maze at all.
No.
No, I
None
didn't
of
get
us
very much
were.
scared. It was good set dressing. It was a piece of, the art was really good. But trying to put myself in the shoes of someone that doesn't know all this is like a waste of time
It's
for
nonsense.
yeah, because it's a maze which is about the scare zone that you're in. And if you have the regular pass and you're waiting an hour for this maze,
Oh
it's going to
boy.
be so disappointing. Everything that's outside, inside, and you don't know the story, right? You don't know
You are
what's
not
happening.
invested in Calico. You might not even know what
Right.
Calico means.
Right. You don't even know what Calico means. So I just don't really understand what most people are going to get out of it. If you have the fast pass, it's fine. It looks good. You might get some scares. Maybe we were unlucky. The sets
Maybe,
still
huh?
look great and all that. But I'll say if you have the regular pass, don't go to this one. There are worse mazes, I think, but this
Mm-hmm.
is the one that you can skip because it's a story about not scary farm, which I think is awesome. It's like a museum event for me. I can't
Right.
believe that they made it. If anyone from the Not Scary Farm team is listening, please don't get rid of it. This is the one that I love. You have 8 other mazes for everyone else. Let
Maybe make it a
one
little
maze
bit scarier. Just a little
maybe
bit.
maybe more scare actors, more something have more jump scares. I don't really like jump scares, but at least those everyone can enjoy it a little bit. This one was a little bit too slow for the average person. I was loving it. I would give it a 5 out of 5 if it was just based off of me, but I think realistically this is somewhere I'd say maybe a 3 out of 5. Great set dressing, but not very scary and not very unique in the park. It's so unique that this type of maze exists, that it's a maze about the history of Not Scary Farm in the area that this maze is taking part. Is very meta, something 3 levels of Inception going on there. But oh yeah, I think some people are gonna just walk out thinking, why did we go into this? This was outside.
Yeah, they're probably gonna walk out and be like, "What was that?" Well, okay, it's kind of a fault of this of Knott's Berry Farm, their commitment to the lore, which is also their strong point, and it just goes to show their commit. They go an extra level. So every year, Knott's Berry Farm during the summertime has a Ghost Town Alive, which is an event where you can go in. They don't charge extra for it, but they have actors interacting in the streets of Ghost Town, which is the Wild West area. And every year, these actors come in, and there's a continuous story that you can follow, and you can go there every single day if you have a season pass. And the actors will say different things with each other. It's magical. Like
It's absolutely magical. Yes, I
it's
I
it's
fly in most
unbelievable.
years for this. It's almost like Westworld, that TV show has come alive. It's
Hmm.
absolutely fantastic, and it's tied in with this Curse of Calico story. So it's absolutely fascinating. Like
Which is
the
why I
theme park itself has
understand why
lore.
you like it so much, and why I do like it too, but maybe not as much as you.
Hmm.
But Yeah. I mean, 3 out of 5 rings true to me. It's just not. Maybe it's just not scary enough. Maybe that's just at the end of the day, it's just not scary enough. I think it's fine. It's not awful. I mean, some of the stuff that they did is really cool. Like you'd read the letters on the tables and stuff. I think that's nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that even Knott's has anything that weak. So even to preface this, West Coast versus East Coast, the worst park on the West Coast is amazing on the national standard, right? So the worst maze in Not Scary Farm is still a really, really good maze. There's nothing wrong with this maze. It just doesn't do anything amazingly. And it just isn't unique enough to where it's sitting to really get any extra points to be anything above average. But it doesn't have any technical flaws. It's the actors in there are pretty good. The set dressing is pretty good. It's still a competent maze. It's just definitely one of the weaker ones at Not Scary Farm this year.
Well said. Okay, so moving on to Dark Ride, and I know you have some things to say about that. Well, okay, let's get on to let's go to Dark Ride. Let's introduce Dark Ride.
Sure. So I think the idea of Dark Ride is definitely really cool. So the setting is that you're at a abandoned theme park ride that has been taken over by these demented monsters. And it's also in the boardwalk area of the park, which is sort of that carnival atmosphere. So it really fits in really well. Knott's is really smart in that it puts in mazes that sort of fit the area of the park, the scare zone that they're within.
Mm-hmm.
And Dark Ride really benefits from that. Is by that barbecue place. It really seems like it belongs where it is. And I think it's a really unique idea. I haven't seen this at any other park. I, however, do not like this maze whatsoever. I can't say it's terrible because it's competent in enough things, but it's just so loud. The music is on a loop, and it's just the monsters aren't really trying to scare you. They're like getting in your face, like in your way, and they're doing their own thing, and they're dancing, and it's just sensory overload for me. Like for me, it's if I was gonna leave any of the mazes halfway through, it would be Dark Ride. Just
Oh wow!
it's so much happening. Like it's
Oh
a mess.
man! Oh
It is
man!
a mess in there. It's just like noise. It's just being at a concert. Like
oh boy! Oh boy!
it's just it's like being at a dubstep concert for me. Like I get it that it works for some people, but for me it's like ear bleeding noise, and there's just so many monsters just coming out of everywhere. It's like they're at a concert. It's like they're at a concert. I hate this maze so much.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but it's really the set's really good.
It is really good.
The theming is really good. The actors are really good. They have these animatronics that are in the maze, but since it's in a theme park maze, it's more animatronic-y on purpose, and that's really awesome that they put those touches in. So much competence in this maze that I absolutely abhor.
Yeah, here's one thing that I'll agree with you on. It is the noise level is quite overwhelming, because fitting with the carnival theme. They kind of had the soundtrack of like roller coasters whizzing by, which if you've ever stood next to a roller coaster, really annoying. So they have that sound. They got the sound of like carnival games going on, and they got that annoying clown like da 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 da, and like a demented version of it. But here's the issue. It feels like there's 5 songs like there really is only like 2 songs playing, but all that together sounds like there's 5 songs going on, and you're like, God, like, can you just lower it maybe by like a little bit, like 10%? Maybe just bring it down a little bit. And it actually works in its disservice, because a lot of ways to get cheap scares, which I'm not saying cheap scares are good, but is to use sound cues. And when you have the music and the noise that loud, sound cues don't do anything anymore, because you're just like, God, my ears, and then you don't hear the sound, you just see the clown. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right.
It's just like
it's just everywhere.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. The set dressing is great, And I just feel like there's a lot of wasted scare actors. You remember that part when you walk in and you're about to leave, and then there's this like actor that's on this like you know that you throw the baseball and it hits the target and he falls in
Right,
the
right,
water. He's got one
right,
of
right,
those,
right,
and then there's like that weird like hot clown, I guess, like this
right,
female
right,
clown who's like, ooh, I'm dancing
right.
on the throw. I'm so sexy, but I'm a weird clown. And but you expect her to like come out and like get you, but she really is just like lap dancing the throne. It's just kind of odd. And then on
Yeah.
the other side, like way on the other
See
side,
what I mean?
there's like,
There's so much going on right now.
yeah,
It's too much.
okay, I see what you're saying. I'm starting to see what you're saying, but like on the other side, there's another clown, and I don't know why they didn't just use an animatronic. Like he has serves no purpose. On the other side, so there's one directly to your left, walking in. On the right, kind of further into the maze, there's kind of a
Hmm.
large room. There's the hot monster clown, and then on the
Right.
very on the other side, he's too far to get to you. You're not even scared of him. You're just kind of like, that guy, is he supposed to be here? And he's on the other side of the maze. I just feel like it's just a little bit disorganized. Like you said, I guess it's just a bit too much going on. I was gonna give this one a pretty good rating, but I think after verbalizing my thoughts, I'm kind of realizing the problem with this.
I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I can't really. There's too much stuff that works in that maze for me to
It's
say
not
anything.
terrible. It's not terrible. It's just poorly executed. Yeah, 3 out of 5. That's fair. That's fair. But I really wanted that one to be better. Okay. Anyway, moving on to Shadowlands.
Ooh, Shadowlands.
It's on
So
the
this
very
one,
end corner of the park.
right? This is a Japanese samurai style maze.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really unique. This has been around for. This is its third year, I believe. I believe it's its third year, and did I say this is one of the ones that's leaving? It might be one of the ones that's leaving.
Shadowlands and Special Ops, I believe, are the ones that are
Right. Yes.
leaving.
So this is one of the ones that's leaving, and I can't say that I'm sorry to see it go because they haven't done too much with this. I like the maze. Here's the problem with it. The set is beautiful, and it's not scary to me because it's this Japanese, forest, and then you go into these paper wall area with this, very stereotypical Japanese music. I'm sure someone that's actually Japanese thinks that this is, a
Tang, tang,
travesty.
tang, 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 tang,
Exactly.
crunk.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Whoa!
I love that song. Yeah,
That's
I
my
love
favorite song.
yeah, that's the best. That's my jam. So they have that everywhere. And it's like it makes me want to like sit down in a corner and meditate. And I'm just like marveling at how beautiful this maze is. And I'm not super scared. Now I will
Mm.
say we've seen some really good actors in this maze.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
There's been some great moments. They have some people on a wire flying around beheading people. There's been great moments in this maze in the 3 years that I've seen it, or maybe it's 4 years.
Hot girl
Um,
tech.
oh yes, the hot girl distraction, man. There was this one 2 years ago, right? The year before this year,
It was 2 years
and
ago.
there was this geisha dressed woman, and she was like beckoning us forward. She could see what we were about.
Really
She
attractive.
locked eyes, and she brought us in close. And as soon as we got close, someone came in from the side and scared the bejesus out of us.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
absolutely amazing. We
We
were
were
laughing.
clapping and
We
high
were
fiving.
Oh, it was amazing. She had our number. She
Yeah.
knew what we were about. So there
Wish
are
I had
there
her
were-
number.
oh,
Anyway.
yeah. This maze, there are some good scare actors in there, and they make it work. They make it a decent maze. Visually really interesting, but just not as a maze. It's more like a museum piece that I enjoy. The
Mm.
scary parts are like a little bit off the Japanese track. It's like a zombie Japanese
Yeah, they
people.
have this giant animatronic monster that comes
Yeah,
out at
I
the
don't know
end.
how that fits in. I think they're really just I don't know. It's a little bit of a stretch for me. I think it's
Mhm.
good maze. I'm a little bit tired of it. I'm happy to see it go. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Um, maybe is
Yeah.
that being too harsh? Is that being too harsh? 'Cause
Is that being to well uh I don't know. I kind of find it
you know what? I'm sick
okay.
of it. So if I
Yeah.
wasn't sick of it, maybe it's a 4 out of 5. It's a 4 out of 5. I'll say
Okay,
it's a
I
4 out of
think
5.
that if it's your first time going to the park, and you let's say that you go in the order that we talked about, and then you go to this park and you're like, this is different.
Right.
Like the
That's true.
music hits, you walk in and it's like moonlit. It's not completely dark, and you're like, this is gonna be different, isn't it? And it
Right.
is. They do
It
some
is
really
because
cool
it's not
stuff.
very scary. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna
Right.
be relaxing.
And here's
But no,
the
it is
funny
good. It is
thing.
good.
Here's the funny thing. Is it suffering from the theming being too good? Is the
That might,
theming too good?
it might be with Dark Ride and Origins, and with
It's like
this,
you
it's like
committed too hard for it to be a carnival theme. You committed too hard for it to be being like Japan. So now I'm
right,
just interested in being in Japan, and I forget that there's monsters in there, and they're not. There really aren't any monsters. They're just some samurai people who they're not
right.
really
Samurais and
scary.
geishas, and so I still think that it's I've talked it down, and now I'm talking it back up. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, especially for people who haven't seen it before.
Yeah, I think for people who haven't seen it before, it is a breath of fresh air. I think that it's unique enough for it to stand out and be memorable. And
That's
if
true.
it's a big bonus if you get a couple scares, and I'm sure if you are new, that you'll get a couple of scares. It won't be the scariest, but it'll definitely be one of the prettiest. So I can agree with a 4 out of 5 um, for this maze. Um, Now this is this next and final maze, and then we'll do a quick break. We actually had a little bit of a disagreement. For most of the park, we kind of agree on our ratings for the maze, but this one we had a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah,
Pumpkin
sure.
Eater.
Okay, I'll go first. So,
Sure.
with Pumpkin Eater, so this is in the Hollows part of the park where it has that Sleepy Hollow pumpkin theme. And the story of this is I'm not really sure what the story of this is. That you're going into this demented pumpkin with demented pumpkin themed monsters, and there's a corn maze and scarecrows. So I'm actually not sure where the story is, honestly. But it's a pumpkin themed maze with scarecrows, sort of that Sleepy Hollow effect. And I really like it. It's its second year or third year now. It might be its third year now. And they have like pumpkin seeds hanging down and little like drops of water coming through. They changed up the end of the maze this year, which I actually really liked. I've gotten good scares here before. Wasn't as much as I did last
Excuse
year,
me.
but I like this maze a lot. Last year it was one of my favorites. I think that's sort of changed a little bit now, but I like this maze a lot. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I'm really happy with it.
Oh boy. And okay, let me verbalize again because maybe it's just because I had a bad experience in this maze. So walking through the maze, you get the pumpkin seeds, and it's weird because the first room, it's a really big room. So a lot of times, if you have a big room, they kind of fence part of it off, so it's a big room so you can look around and people can hide, but they kind of fence it off so you're forced to walk their path. This is just a giant room with a bunch of pumpkin seeds hanging out, which is fine. It sets the mood, right? It's like you walk into a whole big giant hole in a giant pumpkin. It's pretty cool. You see like the centipede, like you see like worms on the sides, gross. Um, but I don't know, man. It wasn't really scary to me. There weren't that many. I don't know if you got any scare actors, but I felt like I only saw two scare actors the entire time. Um,
I maybe had better luck than you. It might be one of those cases where you walked right past them and they jumped out at me.
It could have been, yeah. And there's this part I remember last year when they had this really cool area where you think you just get out of like, your home stretch, and then the floor starts vibrating really, really, really fast. And for some reason, that really threw me off. That really freaked me out. It not only does it make a loud noise, but it's like something about this uneasiness of not being able to find your balance. That really, really threw me off, and that was like the cherry on top. I really enjoyed this maze last year. Again, it could have been just bad luck, but I don't know. I wasn't scared at all. And I actually rate this maze a 2 out of 5.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's
And
pretty low.
I'm pretty upset about that because how I wonder how we can have two wildly different experiences. We're right next to each other.
Yeah,
I
that's
I,
that's
I
that's it's a
trigger I
price
like
of luck.
trigger yeah, I guess I triggered everything and you just kind of ran into them. Um, but to be fair, again, this is kind of one of those instances where luck is going to play a big factor. It might not have been as bad. Maybe I'm just rating my experience as a 2 out of 5. If I'll bring it a 3 out of 5.
Nah,
If
I don't
you
compromise. I ain't compromising.
Oh, okay, all right,
No
there,
deal,
fair
no
enough.
deal, no
Fair.
deal.
Okay, my experience was a 2 out of 5. I didn't enjoy my time in the maze. I feel like there was just
That's all
too
right.
many
I
instances of
enjoyed it
open
for you. I
spaces.
enjoyed it for
You
you.
enjoyed it for me, and you can thank me later or thank me now. Okay.
Oh, I had a
Um,
great time.
all right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the scare zones shows, and then wrapping up with our favorite mazes of the park after the break. Okay, and we're back. So let's go ahead and talk about the scare zones. Now, the scares. So, for those of you who have not been to any Halloween theme park, a scare zone is kind of this wide open area that is not attached to any sort of maze. That scare actors, which are people dressed up, work for the park, interact with the crowd. Um, and Knott's Berry Farm has 4 scare zones. And spoiler alert, they're all awesome. But if you're a first time goer and you're going to get very different experiences with scare zones depending on the park that you go to. We'll probably talk about each scare zone when it comes to each park in the different podcasts. But not Scary Farm, they don't mess around. There's a whole
Yeah, yes.
documentary on scare actors and Knott's Berry Farm, and they're the kind of the pioneers of scare zones, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Scare zones at Not Scary Farm are so strong. They really invented this idea of a scare zone of just having actors around the regular parts of the park, setting them up, having different themes, and having a different type of interaction. Now at Knott's, they're a lot more focused on scaring you. At other parks like Six Flags, like, they'll stop and take pictures with you and talk to you and do other types of interactions. It's amazing. Like, this is where you're gonna see people get chased around the entire park by a
Mm-hmm.
scare actor. This is where you're gonna see people cry and run, and like, this is, I live for these moments. Let's just jump into the first one, Ghost Town Streets.
Yeah,
This is the scare zone. This is the best scare zone in the country. Probably the first scare zone in the country. It's amazing. In
nothing
the
like it.
Calico. It's in the Calico Old West part of the park, and they fill it up with fog. They keep it really dark, which is something a lot of other parks are unwilling to do. And it's full of scare actors that have been doing their roles for 5, 10, 20 years. Some of these people,
Mm-hmm.
they have sliders, which are sliders are people that have these elbow and knee pads that have metal on them so they can slide around. They've actually invented it at Not Scary Farm. It's become its own, like, extreme sport sort of thing. If you're interested, you can check out the documentary Sliders of Ghost Town. It's on Amazon Prime, I believe. And it's so interesting how they've come up with all this stuff. I would pay $50 if you were paying just the regular $50. I would spend most of my nights at Ghost Town
Oh,
Streets
for
watching people get
sure,
scared.
for
It's
sure.
amazing. I think Ghost Town Streets might be my favorite place in the country, possibly.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I will just, I'll grab a churro and I'll sit on I'll find a seat and just watch for 20, 30 minutes, just these people
Actually,
getting
every year
scared.
that we go, that's kind of like how we end the night. It's like, okay, well, we done all the mazes, and let's go to Fog Alley is what we call it, and that's kind
Right.
of the
Right. This
nickname
one
of it.
area, the main thoroughway of Ghost Town, and it's so much fog you can't see in front of your face. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. They have so many actors. They're so talented. It's terrifying. Like you're
It is
just worried
terrifying.
about running in. You're worried about bumping into someone, and then there's a scare actor. And if they get you, and they know that you're the type of person that's gonna give them a reaction, they're gonna they're gonna go be relentless. They'll have like
Mm-hmm.
5 people crawling up to one person. That
Oh.
person might fall out of their chair, and they will keep going. They are pretty relentless.
Yeah, they don't care. Their job is there's other parks that, they might like, take selfies with you and they might like laugh with you and break character. No, these guys they don't screw around, okay? Their job is to scare and to scare only. If they know they're gonna get a scare, they don't care. They're like, you signed up for this. We're here to scare. No holds barred. And I love this area even to this day. I get a little bit of hesitation going through Fog Alley, aka Ghost Town Streets. Probably when I think of Halloween, I think of Ghost Town Streets.
Yeah, this is the place to be.
Definitely.
I mean, I give it a 5 out of 10 out of 5, 100 out of 5. This place is the best scare zone that there is.
Yeah, it just feels like other scare zones are just trying to be Ghost Town Streets, and they can't because it's not Ghost Town Streets. Ghost Town Streets is my favorite scare zone, yeah, out of all the parks ever. So it's like it's one of those things that you just kind of have to experience for yourself. Us explaining it, it's just not really doing its service. Just imagine a lot of fog, you can't see, and a bunch of talented actors who are very good at their job and very good at scaring. And yeah, and a lot of times they're going through it with just the anticipation of getting scared, and then you have like a group of kids or whatever, a family, and they're kind of like walking through Fog Alley really carefully, and then you run into each other and you just kind of scare each other even though there's like nothing there. It's
Right.
great. It's great. I love Ghost Town Streets. 5 out of 5 for me as well.
All right, so let's move on to Carnival. So Carnival is in the boardwalk part of the park, which is the opposite of Ghost Town Streets in that it's super brightly lit. It's where the carnival games are. It's where hang time in. It has that California boardwalk carnival vibe. And the actors here make it work because they're all dressed up like clowns and they use noise to their advantage. It's really creative. It's not my favorite scare zone, but I think it's where the scare actors are working the hardest. They are really
Oh,
working
for
for each of
sure.
those scares.
For sure. They have no tools to their expose. What? What? Disposal. Exposal? Disposal. Why did I say exposal? They have no tools to their disposal. Yeah, it's a brightly lit area, and they really have to be creative with the types of scares that they get. One thing that I notice about Carnevil is that they're just really good at blending in with the crowd. Because how else are you going to be able to walk up to a group of people when the whole park is lit up? There's no fog because it's kind of a carnival game area. And yeah, I mean, I think the best scare actors are placed in Carnival because they have the least amount of tools. And actually, don't you follow one of the scare actors on YouTube?
Yeah, it was last year. I was watching this. I was watching these scare actors' YouTube channels before I went, and I recognized the guy.
Uh-huh.
And I said, like, "Hey, it's that guy from YouTube." And he, like, his face lit up. He gave me a high five, and then he
Kind of
went
broke
right
character
back.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he just went right back into scare acting. I don't know if I saw him this year.
I
I was
don't
looking
think we
out for.
saw him.
Yeah, I
He's
didn't
got a
see
very
him this
unique
year.
haircut,
He did. He did.
which is unfortunate, but maybe he moved on to bigger and better things.
We'll check the YouTube. And if you're listening to this by any chance, hey man, I hope you're doing well. If you're at Not Scary Farm, maybe I'll see you
Oh yeah,
next
next
Friday.
week.
Yeah, next week. And if you're not at Not Scary Farm, I hope you're well.
All right, so yeah, Carnival. For me, it's just a consequence of the lack of atmosphere that they can build. But they're all dressed up as clowns. They kind of fit that bill. It's kind of like that's how they extend it into the dark ride. It's like kind of fits with their theming. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. I like that it exists, and I like how it's kind of different than the the other scare zones in its own way. I'd give this scare zone a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5, man. It is every single scare zone in Not Scary Farm is top notch. It really is. Like if we were
Mm-hmm.
rating, it's amazing. They're all pretty good. The next one is the Hollow. So this is one of the newer ones. It's been around for 3 or 4 years now. It's in the Camp Snoopy part of the park, and it's kind of like Sleepy. It's where Pumpkin Eater is, and it has that Sleepy Hollow corn, corn maze, scarecrow pumpkin theme. A lot of fog. It's my second favorite of the scare zones. It's sometimes there are some years where it's close to Ghost Town Streets. They have very talented talent here. It's a little narrow. They have a little less to work with than they do in Ghost Town Streets, but I think it's really awesome. Really talented actors. I see a lot of people getting chased, running around. I really love it. The one thing I don't really like about this is that there's only one maze here. There's only Pumpkin Eater. So you
That's
have
very
a
true.
little less of a good reason to go here. Whereas at Ghost Town, I think Ghost Town Streets has maybe 4 mazes, 4 or 5 mazes,
It's like
depending
you
on.
have to go through Fog Alley if you want to access the other parts of the park, no matter what you do. But
Right.
yeah, you can actually find a way to not go through the Hollow if you want to go to Pumpkin Eater. You just come from the other side of the park where the gate is, make a
Right,
right,
right.
and you don't even have to go through the Hollow, which is a shame. I feel like that's just
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
bad consequence of
Yeah, I
maze
really
placement.
think if you have the time, make sure you walk around the park. Don't just allow you know, your itinerary to decide what you see in the park. Make sure you see each of these scare zones because honestly, they're all worth seeing. They're every single
Mm-hmm.
one, even the worst one. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I would give this one a 4 out of 5. Some years it could be 5 out of 5. This year wasn't too great. It was a little, it's all about luck, right?
It
Sometimes it's
is
a high
about
traffic
luck.
area, sometimes it's packed, sometimes there's not enough people, and you see the scare actors from too far away. And but this year was good. It was good, just like every year. Wasn't amazing. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. This one, if any scare zone at Not Scary Farm is going to give Ghost Town Streets a run for its money, it's definitely the Hollow.
For sure. And if you watch the documentary, they'll actually talk a little bit about that, how the Hollow and Ghost Town Streets are in fierce competition with each other for good reason. Now, I will say, one thing that the Hollow has over Ghost Town Streets is better seating, if that means anything. If you want to just chill, hang out, and eat some churros while
Oh,
you
right.
watch while you
Right,
watch
right.
people get scared.
One thing that I do want to point out about Not Scary Farm is that every single scare zone has these show moments. These moments where the actors do this pre-scripted event, and
Hmm.
you really have to be there at the right time to observe it. And I think at the Hollow at
Midnight.
12 midnight, the witches, there's a bunch of witches that have this really creepy ceremony. And I think I saw it a couple years ago. I keep forgetting.
We didn't
Maybe
see it
we'll have
this
to.
year.
We haven't seen it this year. We have another chance
Yeah, we do.
in a couple weeks. So we'll see that. So just keep your eyes open when you're in these scare zones, especially when you're getting close to that mid time, that peak time when everyone's in the park. They do some really interesting things and some really unique storylines that are just really there for the people that are there. It could be 2 or 3 people that are enjoying this moment, and they'll act out the whole scene, and
Hmm.
it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's one thing. Again, Knott's Berry Farm. They are committed to their roles. They are committed to the lore, and it's just something that you just kind of have to appreciate being there. I mean, and because of that culture, these actors are given free reign to kind of do whatever they want. So that's like I just remember there's this great moment. Oh, I wonder if it was last year or 2 years. I think it was last year where we hung out at the Hollow for a little bit. To just kind of watch people get scared, and they were doing this ceremony for this slider who was gonna
Retiring, right?
retire, and they were like kind of huddled around, and they had that cool little like farewell ceremony. But the whole time they're in character, the whole time they're doing this weird creepy thing, and then that kind of passed, and then we kind of hung out for a little bit. And there was this part where that we were hiding, and a scare actor actually came up behind me to hide, and you didn't notice him, and we were like enjoying ourselves, having a good time, and I tapped your shoulder, and they both kind of jumped at you,
Right,
and
right.
like even when you least suspect it, they will find the most creative ways to scare you, or sometimes if you're in on it, they'll use you as cover to go and jump out at other people. It's fantastic. These guys are so creative. The Hollow was a little bit lacking this year. Maybe it was just bad luck, like you said, but for me, gets a 4 out of 5.
Alrighty, and then the last scare zone is the newest one, which is Forsaken Lake. It's in its second year in the park, and it's under Silver Bullet. It's that area between Ghost Town and Fiesta Village.
It's a pretty
And
unfortunate placement, in my
right, and
opinion.
so last year is really lacking. It was really small. I didn't really notice it too much. This year they made it a lot bigger. They have a lot more set stuff, a lot more show moments. It's sort of I don't know, there's some sort of a funeral thing going on there. It didn't get the full story, but there's
Hmm.
a lot more going on here. A lot more fog, a lot more actors. The only thing that holds it back is that it's in a bad part of the park. It's not very well themed. It's just under Silver Bullet. Yes, it's I don't know. It's
Hmm.
around the lake, but it's around the lake
Yeah.
that's under Silver Bullet. That's fenced off, and it's just concrete. So it's still a really good scare zone. I saw people running around. I saw people getting scared. They brought in props, to put to give it some sort of a set dressing.
Hmm.
The actors are really talented, and I'm glad that they made it a lot bigger. I would definitely say last year I was pretty disappointed with it. It didn't even seem like a scare zone. It just
Right.
seemed like a few actors that were out. Now they've built it up. I hope next year that they keep improving it because they're definitely in the right direction with this one.
Yeah, I feel like one thing that they could have done is, that part of the park when you get through the gates, and if you make a right, you can go directly into Pumpkin Eater.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wonder if they did this thing where they block that part off, so you actually
Right.
have to go past through Silver Bullet and then block off the Camp Snoopy part where the
Right.
artists are, and then that way you actually have to go to Forsaken Lake and loop around. Maybe it's not good for like crowd management, but then you have to loop around so you actually get to experience Forsaken Lake.
Right.
Um, because it's actually a good scare zone. I mean, like you said, the costumes are great, actors are great. It's kind of a running thing for Knott's, is just this tier of quality that you can't really find anywhere else. But it just suffers from bad logistics. It's just not in a good spot. Um, and I mean, it's not really a lake either, because you kind of pass the lake like going through the area. But still, I think it's pretty solid. Regardless of that, I'm willing to give this 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 to 5. Maybe it's the weakest scare zone at Knott's, but it's still an amazing scare zone. Definitely still worth going out of your way to see this. Spending a few minutes, at least 10 minutes out there, see what they have to offer, see some scares, and hopefully they keep improving it.
Yeah, definitely. So no matter what scare zone you go to, it all has this sort of Knott's magic to it. It's got kind of that Knott's magic touch to it. But speaking of magic, let's move on to the shows, starting with our first show, Conjured, which is actually a magician show, a magic show.
Yeah, so this happens in the Birdcage Theater, which is in the Ghost Town part of the park, and they have different magicians depending on the week that you go. I thought it was a pretty good show, pretty simple. I like that that most magicians are also comedians at this point. Good audience interaction. The space for it was pretty good. There was good seats. It's nice to get away from the park for a few minutes. I think it's about a 25, maybe 30-minute show. I enjoyed it. I'm happy that they have it. I like when shows have something to do with Halloween. I think a magician fits the theme pretty well. And I don't see a lot of magic, and I enjoy it when I see it. So I'd give this one a 3 out of 5. Happy to have it here at Knott.
Yeah, I mean, low pass for me as well. 3 out of 5. It's fine. It's not the best magic show in the world, but it's not the worst. And this year, I don't know, maybe it's just this magician, but he had a parakeet who was really cute. He kept doing this bit where he would tell the parakeet to pick a card or whatever, and it wouldn't respond, and he's just like, "It's a bird. What do you expect?" And he did that over and
Right.
over again. It was really funny, and it kind of worked up the crowd a bit. And I think it's nice to have something that's funny, to kind of break up, like finally get a break, because the scare actors out there are relentless. The only time you're ever gonna get a break is when you're in a funny show, because nowhere's safe in Knott's Berry Farm. And I enjoyed it. Magic show gets a pass for me, 3 out of 5 as
All
well.
right. And then the next one is Puppet Up. So Puppet Up, it is in the Charles Shorts Theater. So it's that big theater in the boardwalk part of the park, and it's taking over for another improv show that they have. So a Puppet Up is it's from the creators of Sesame Street and the people that do the other puppet stuff. It's a traveling show, so it's here at Knott's temporarily during the Knott Scary Farm season, and they have the puppets on a projector so you can kind of see what you're supposed to see, but on stage you can also see the actors actually manipulating the puppets, so it's
Hmm.
really interesting that way. It's an improv show. It's pretty dirty and raunchy. The humor is really
Rated M
toilet,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and really, but also really childish, you know.
Right.
And they take suggestions from the audience. I thought I wasn't gonna love this show because I usually don't like crude humor. I don't like vulgar things. I don't like, you know, people from the audience. Will always, like give us an event, and someone's
And it's
like,
always
ain't
something sexual.
yeah,
Yeah.
something sexual or gross, and they're just yelling it, and they're having a great time. Anyway, surprisingly, I love this show. I thought they did such a good job. There was this. Just tell them about that one guy that couldn't really move the
Yeah,
puppet.
so okay, there's this one part where they ask for crowd participation, which is always a make or break moment, I believe, for a lot of shows that require audience participation. So they have this guy come up, and so they do this bit where they get audience suggestions, and they have to act out a skit. And the this audience member, this guy, he's supposed to be like one of the main characters. Um, Issue is, for the life of him, for whatever reason, maybe he was drunk or I don't know, or distracted, he just could not operate this puppet. And they chose the dumbest looking puppet that you've ever seen. It was I haven't laughed that hard in a really, really long time. And surprising coming from a puppet show, but yeah, so like he was just looking. I don't know if he got like the directions confused because of the projector, but like they would tell him, "Hey, look to the right," and he would go left. I don't know if it's because the monitor shows things in reverse or whatever, or like they would tell him to do something, and there'd just be like this awkward stare with a puppet into the camera, like he didn't know what to do. Man, it was really, really funny. It was a really good time, and I was not expecting to laugh that hard. Bit ashamed to, but hey, it's a great show. Puppet Up, definitely recommend if you have time in your night. It's one of those things that I definitely recommend you see. Gets a 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. When I go back, I'm gonna watch this show multiple times because I think each show is probably pretty different because
Hmm.
they take suggestions from the audience that they bring in an audience member. I'm excited to see this at least a couple more times when we visit the park again.
Yeah, we're
And
going back
yeah,
again. We will report in again, but I'm excited to see the multiple showings that they have. But one thing that we will probably not see multiple showings of is the hanging.
oh, The Hanging. So we didn't watch it this year. We've seen it previous years. Here's what I'll say. It's in a really cool part of the park. So it's in that Ghost Town area. Maybe just not part of Ghost Town, but it's between Ghost Town and the boardwalk area where Carnevil is. It's this show on a stage. It's happening multiple times a night, so you can just kind of watch it as you're passing through. I think it's really important to have something like this in the park because you're going from maze to maze, and then you can kind of catch a bit of a show on your way to eat or just passing through. People really love this show. I mean,
Yes, they
people
do.
people rave about this show. They talk about it, looking forward to it all year. It's this pop culture vulgar, where they
Mm,
kill someone from someone in pop culture, they hanging them, and it's like a bunch of references. The way I describe it, it's a lot like the YouTube rewind video where
that's a good way of putting it.
cram in they just try to cram in as many references, and you get applause. last time when we watched it, I chuckled a couple times, and then there was a couple ones where it got to me, and I laughed. But overall, I hate this show. This is not for me at all. I know that people love it, so I'm not telling them to get rid of it. I'm not saying that people that enjoy it, they're not enjoying it. They clearly are. I just don't like it. It's not for me. Again, I don't like the vulgar humor. I don't think it's as smart as people think it is. People are always raving about how like cutting edge, and they say the things that people don't have the courage to say. I think that just makes me angry. I think it's a stupid show for stupid people. Um,
Oh, 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 hot
I
takes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't really fairly rate it. If I had to rate it, I'd give it a 1 out of 5, but that's not
Oh
fair at all.
boy.
Um,
Oh
I'm
boy.
it's sort of like South Park where it's very relevant, so it seems like maybe they're writing it as the
Mm.
season is going on. That's really cool. I mean, I could definitely see the effort in it. I know that people that love it, and that's just what it is, and I am not one of the people that love it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Rithik's not very smart, so I don't think he got the hanging. For me, it really resounded to me. I love the show. Think it's very smart. I give it a 5 out of 5. Definitely recommend. If you're a child under 12 years old, I think that this is a very appropriate show. The show sucks. Show's terrible. I think here's the problem with the show. First, let me talk about the good things. Okay, if you're really into pop culture, you will find something that's funny. Like you'll find that your Old Town Road reference. You'll have the Trump joke, or you'll have the Joe Biden stuff. They're pretty well rounded in their pop culture references. I'll give them that. Um, but the whole time it just feels like they're trying a bit too hard, and I think that's kind of the theme, where it's like, Old Town Road, right? It sucks, right? Huh? And they kind of like shove it in your face. And that's why I don't think it seems smart. It's maybe the references are on point, maybe they're correct. Yeah, that song's annoying, but they kind of shove it in your face and be like, "Hey, do you get this reference? Huh? That's funny, huh?" It's like emojis, right? And for me that's like really offensive. It's like I'm not that dumb. I understand. I understand that you don't like emojis. I don't like emojis, but I like emojis better than I like you right now. So the nice thing about the hanging is that it's kind of an open theater. You stand up, and if you get the chance, if you have a little bit of time, walk past the hanging. Catch a little bit of the show. If you like it, stay. I'm not gonna judge you, okay? But if you don't like it, walk away and do something else. Unlike, it'd just be really weird if you're in Conjured and then the magician said something that you didn't like and you walked out and you gotta like walk in front of everybody. You can't really do that in the other shows, but this show you can. So it's kind of out in the public. So not for me, not for Rithik. I also give it a 1 out of 5.
Yep.
It's poop,
Yep.
in my opinion.
And then the last show, again, with not something we have a whole lot of experience in, is Awaken the Dead. So in the Fiesta Village part of Knott's, they got rid of the scare zone there, and I really liked the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, um, scare zone. But I guess there was a lot of problems, and they just scrapped it, and they decided they wanted one safe part of the park, and they have like a DJ and a dance show with go-go dancers, and it's pretty much going all night. I've only walked past it, maybe watched it while I was getting food. Again, it's not something for me, but I do think it rounds out the package. It's something for another group of people. Maybe it's the same group of people that like the hanging. I don't know. Younger people that want to, that want to dance at a scary haunted event. Hey, you know what? It's something. It always seems really crowded. Seems like the people there are having fun. So who am I to say that they're not? Again, I can't rate it again. But it's overall, if you're looking at the Knott's package, they have 4 shows. I love one of them. I like another one, and I kind of don't care about the other 2. But I still feel like I got my money's worth. They have something for everyone, and I think that's what I can say is a positive about Awaken the Dead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not every day that you get to see a DJ and live dance floor at a theme park, and Knott's is the one that offers that. And not only that, you can actually get drinks at the bar. If you're keen, you can actually try their boysenberry beer if you're so inclined to, and then head over to the dance floor. It's kind of one of those things where, again, it's kind of out of the way of the park, and you kind of stumble upon it if it's your first time there. Like, oh yeah, they have a dance floor. That's neat. And then if you're like us, you just kind of keep walking. But I think that Awaken the Dead is yeah, it's not really a show. But like Rithik said, I can't really rate it. I mean, it's nice that it's there. It's kind of like an accessory to the park, and I if I had to rate it, I'd give it a 3 out of 5, a pass. People like it. It's not really for me. Okay, well, let's go ahead and finish off this podcast by ranking our top 3 mazes. But first, we got to go to a quick break. Be right back. Okay, we are back, and let's just finish this guy off. So let's talk about the top maze for us. I mean, first of all, let's breaking down the mazes here. We gave 3 of these mazes a perfect score, right? So first was the depths. Definitely should check out Paranormal Inc. and Special Ops Infected are those perfect score mazes. But now we're gonna give you our opinion on what we think is the best maze that Knott's has to offer this year. So do you want to go ahead and go first there?
All right. Yeah, I would say without a doubt, Paranormal Inc. is my favorite maze. I think that moment where you push past that black funhouse, pillow thing, and you get into that 1950s atmosphere with the music, and you're bewildered, and they're not really, they're letting you scare yourself. They're not the nurse isn't getting in your face. You just have to push past her, and you're just disoriented, and you go from one dimension to the next with the semi-permeable glass. It's amazing. I think that this is one of my favorite mazes that I've ever been in. It's been around for a while. I hope that they do something with it. I'm sure it's coming to the end of its life. If you haven't been, this is the maze to go to. If you've been 2 years ago, definitely go to it. If you've been last year, it's the same. It's the same as it was last year. There's no difference. So
can't hold it against it, but
yeah, still a solid maze. I love it. Yeah, it might be one of my favorite mazes anywhere.
for sure. Okay, well, man, this is so close. They're all so good. It's really hard to just choose one, but man, if I had to choose one, I think I'm gonna go with the depths. I think the depths is like it just achieves like so many things on different levels. It's creative in its presentation and story. It's creative in its visual presentation, like the optical illusions and the way that they get their scares and the way they set the atmosphere and the attention to detail with the set pieces where you can actually read what the miners are there's a story. It's amazing. There's a real story going on. And not like that's super important, but man, setting that atmosphere and then the payoff is huge. I think the depths is a must see. Paranormal Inc. I feel, man, so close, because Paranormal Inc. it's like one of those mazes where you can go twice and you get a different experience. You can go the left group or the right group. There's so many different ways to experience this maze, the paranormal, but the depths just has that slight edge that, man, if you were to only go to one maze and you're looking to get impressed to see what Knott's potential is, I feel that you're going to get that from the depths. I think that is my favorite maze and the best maze that Knott's has to offer. But there you have it, folks. That kind of rounds things off with the maze, scare zones, and shows. Rated everything from 1 through 5. But like we said, a lot of these things are going to have to do with luck. If you have the chance to go, I think that the Fast Pass, I mean, right? The Fast Pass is the way to go. am I wrong, or am I?
I mean, $140 is a hard sell. If you go with the $50 option, and you go into with the expectation you're not going to experience everything, you're just going to go to a theme park and you have a good day there. It's the same price as your regular admission, so instead of going in the daytime, you're going at the nighttime. I still think $50 is worth it. I think the scare zones is what sets Knott's apart. I think you can choose a few mazes that you want to go to the shows. Those are easy to get into, um, and ride some rides. I think even with $50 it's worth going to. I will say though, with Knott's, this year has the least new things between the big three that we went to.
That
Between
is true.
Six Flags and Universal, Knott's has the least new stuff. Last year they threw in a lot of new things. This year was just one new show and two new mazes. Typically they'll have 2 to 3 new mazes per year. So Knott's does rotate around a little bit slower than the other parks, a lot slower than Universal, which is new every year. But what they have is so strong. The scare zones are amazing. The actors are amazing. The sets are amazing. The shows are pretty good. The theme, every single ride is there, right? You get so much value. I really think if you haven't been to Knott's recently, absolutely go. If you're a fanatic like me, and for some reason you have to choose between parks you have to go to, this one, the one caveat I would say that this year they have the least new stuff that they've had in the last couple of years, and that's because they had a lot of new things last year. But I thought it was an awesome experience. They just have so much value. I would go with the 140, but I would absolutely not say that you won't have a good time with $50. That was very confusing. You will have a good time if you get the $50 ticket. The
Fair enough.
And I think it's still worth doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think, man, I mean, you're talking to Halloween nuts here, but I think it'd be fair to say we'd both pay $50 just allow us to sit down at Ghost Town streets for a little bit.
Yeah, I would.
You're definitely getting your money's worth there. But there you have it, folks. Knott's Berry Farm, Knott's Scary Farm. Definitely check it out. A great event. Can't stress it enough. It's probably our favorite Halloween theme park. Okay, well, that's it for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next podcast. Thanks, Rithik, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right,
for
happy
episode
Halloween,
2. Happy Halloween. See you next time.